This was Chris Hayes last night. And he's talking to a Republican congressman who...
Blake Farenthold.
Blake
from Texas?
Farenthold. And basically, Chris Hayes, in his very earnest Chris Hayes way, wants to know...
Yep, Texas is 27th.
Boom. Wants to know, what can Donald Trump do to get you to not support him? And the congressman actually gives you a pretty solid idea of what he could do.
10 years ago that he's apologized for. It was a private conversation that was off the record. That
Congressman, if
just happened
someone
to be
off the
caught on
record
tape.
said, if someone off the record in a locker room, this was not in a locker room, it was a workplace, said, I really like raping women, would that be locker room talk?
Again, it depends. You don't know the entire context.
Well, quite literally, it would be locker room talk, Chris. I don't get the point. He said it in the locker room, so I guess it's a locker room. But I don't know. You tell me. Okay.
The workplace said, I really like raping women. Would that be locker room talk?
Again, it depends. You don't know the entire context.
But
of
you
all
would be
this.
fine with
But I'm
that.
not here
If
to
a tape
defend
came
Donald
out-
Trump. I don't like what he said.
If a tape came out with Donald Trump saying
can defend
that,
himself on that.
if a tape came out with Donald Trump saying that, saying, I really like to rape women, you would continue to endorse him?
Again, it would. That would be bad, and I would have to consider. I'd consider it. But again, we're talking about what Donald Trump said 10 years ago, as opposed to what Hillary Clinton has done in the past 2 or 3 years. I mean, she's been the ad is right. She's been a failure as Secretary of State. She failed to negotiate a status of forces agreement in Iraq. You have Benghazi. You have the Red Line in Syria situation.
Congressman, actually, this is interesting. Were you in Congress when the status of forces agreement was negotiated?
I came in 2010. It was negotiated
before you left.
I think before that.
Yeah, were you publicly and prominently opposed to the details of the Bush administration's status of forces agreement?
Of course not. Well, listen, I think we should have stayed in Iraq.
No,
and
I
said
mean,
that
just
on the radio
as a matter
show
of
that I was on.
where you were on the record. Were you on the record opposing the Bush administration's status of forces agreement back when it was negotiated in 2008?
I was opposed to our pulling out of Iraq.
So you're on the record about that.
On the radio. Listen, back in 2008, I was on the radio every morning.
Look, Chris, back in 2008, I was probably saying that we should drop a nuke on the entirety of the Middle East. So if that counts as being on a record, I think it does, you goddamn lesbian-looking liberal. But I think that, which is what the guy wanted to say, so I'm just trying to help him out. But I think what I love there is that Blake Farenthold is so disgusting and craven that he won't even say it's someone saying that they liked raping women would not be enough for him because he hates Hillary Clinton that much. So he's an embodiment of rape culture. Chris Hayes is so disgusted that Hayes is usually very polite. In my view, sometimes maybe slightly to a fault.
He's kind of adjusted his meter.
Well,
a bit.
yeah, because of that.
Yeah.
So he gave himself permission to be like, wow, if you are such a scumbag, I guess I will give myself permission to humiliate you on something you clearly have no idea what you're talking about on.
Right. And if you this particular congressman, Hayes has him on a lot because every time because and it's for that very reason. Every time Trump says something completely insane, he has this guy on like, do you still support this guy? And it's always basically the same conversation of what would it take for you not to support this dude, right? So he, in a sense, he's prepared for the question.
Oh yeah.
He didn't it wasn't a gotcha question. He was prepared for the question. And Hayes, and you know, what makes it beautiful to me and magic to me is that Hayes just said what Trump said in a different way. Meaning what he said was, I like to rape women, but let me say it more explicitly for you to prove the point that you don't give a fuck.
Right.
He trumped what Trump says.
Right. And then of course our, esteemed congressman was like,
Yeah.
rape.
I wouldn't say that Puerto Ricans were a separate race of people genetically engineered to pick pocketbooks. I wouldn't have said that, Chris. But I would say that I still support him because Hillary Clinton is evil.
In a certain tone of voice, I like raping people can be funny.
It's crazy because that's why watching it was so striking to me. It's like, well, Chris Hayes just did it. He just said it in a different way. It's like, would you support a guy who gets buckets? Yeah, sure. Would you support a guy who scores a lot? Yeah, sure. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's the same.
yeah.
He's saying the exact same thing over and over again, and this guy's so freaking. He's so freaking out there.
I'm
for Trump.
surprised he
doesn't
was
even
on
care.
radio. He was really flat-footed. All right.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.